Well, you better lay off them puff bars and twisted teas. You ain't but 15 years old. And your mother should be doing something about it. All right, we're going to go over today the interview that Hunter had with Chris McDonough. Now, this interview is pretty old. I know a lot of you are going to be like, oh my God, that's nothing now. After I watched it again, I hadn't seen it in a while. Wow. You want to talk about action-packed? We might have to make this a two-parter. All right, we're going to start out first thing right off the bat. Hunter wanted to use his phone as reference for stuff. And that was weird because it wasn't his phone. It was a phone he had borrowed from someone else. And his phone is still with TBI. You don't need a reference for facts or truths. The day started out, Candace had texted Hunter, I'm in the hospital, we been up to. Hunter invited her to come over because he didn't want her to have to sit there and wait at the hospital for a long time, right? He asked if it's okay with Allison. Of course, Allison, being the mother of the year she is, says, oh, sure, go ahead, take off. And Hunter immediately makes this statement, he's not good with time. Now, that's a hedge your bet statement. That's like if you're going to not be sure about stuff, you do that so you can explain, well, I thought it was this time. That's what that's all about. Supposedly, he says, the kids went to work with Dawn. That's right at the beginning of all this. And he clarifies all three boys. And then he says, this is the first time that him and Candace had spoke in a long time. And that's a very interesting thing, and I'll tell you why in a minute. He gives Chris a dap. Chris ain't sure what a dap is, so he gives him up. And, yeah, it was crazy. Kids, injured grandma's knee is his next statement. He kind of volunteers that he knows why her knee's injured. It's kind of an odd thing. Chris checks Allison's ass next for trying to answer questions for Hunter. He's like, shut up, let the boy speak. We don't need your wah-wah in my ear. He asks Hunter what time Candace arrived. Hunter says 11. It is bounced around for a second, then he reverts to 10. He's not really sure. And he says Candace asked him to go fishing. Allie, of course, said yes. He says summer seemed regular. Seemed like at this point everything was good. And he states he showed Summer attention, not weird attention. And I thought that was a weird thing for him to go straight there, because it makes you think Hunter might have some weird people giving weird attention around him, or he's, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong. Do not get me wrong. I am not saying that. I'm saying, though, for his mind to go directly to that, like he feels like he need to explain that, he might know people that give bad, weird attention, as he called it. Now, he says, like, you know, he tries to be good to Summer and stuff because the brothers always picked on Summer. And, you know, I don't get a horrible feeling about him and Summer's relationship. I actually get a pretty good feeling. I think he was probably pretty decent to Summer. All right. Now, he states this is the first interaction since the blow-up. And the blow-up would be when Candace and Allie got into it, right? Well, that was 8 months ago at this point. So, the first time they talk and see each other in 8 months is the day that Summer goes missing. That's another one of them coincidences that I talk about that I don't like, and if they get to be too many and too crazy, you know that shit ain't right. It's common sense. There can only be so many coincidences, and that's a huge one. You figure 8 months, 240 days about. So out of those 240 days, the first day they talk, Summer goes missing. Just weird timing? I don't think so. He says as soon as she gets there, basically, Grandma calls for a ride. Now, I think that's strange, too. Because if you're taking somebody to the hospital, are you going to leave knowing that they could get out pretty soon just to go to Hunter's house? No, I don't think so. That's another thing that sticks out to me and seems wrong. He says there's boxes of CDs in the car. Chris is real big about where people are sitting and what's in the car. And I know there's reasoning for that. We're not going to get into it because I'm not 100% positive, but we know that that's why he's so interested in that. That's telling him something. He says Summer has on a tank top. He ain't sure of the color. That's about it. Shorts, I think. And then he says she changes Summer to go swimming, and she takes the clothes Summer had on with her. That's interesting because you would have thought she would have put those back on her after she swam, right? Because it didn't get colder after she went swimming. You know what I'm saying? When she left the house, it was colder than it was after she had went swimming. It was warmer. You know that. So she could have wore the same clothes, you would think. I know I've heard the excuses for the changing of the clothes. She was cold and all this, but I mean, think about it. Then, went to go swimming because of Grandma. I don't know why you had to swim because now Grandma's in the mix instead of fish. That made no sense to me. Said, you know, at first he said they pick up Grandma and go straight to Walgreens, right? To drop off the prescription. He asked Candace what the prescription was. She wouldn't say the name. Why? She afraid Hunter would jack him or what? That's weird. She says Dawn calls. There's a dude on the property. And the way it's described, I think maybe this is Jackie Dobson they're talking about. And he's looking at kids. Now, my wife ain't going to get a call from me saying there's a dude on the property looking at kids. She's going to get a call from me saying there's a dude on the property. He was looking at the kids. I beat the dog shit out of him and I put him in the ditch. So on your way home, be careful. He could be stumbling into the road. The dude's been there a week or two trying to touch kids. For a week or two. Wow, man, you are really policing your area. Great. Hey, kids, be careful. That dude's out there again. Weird. Billy, they talk about Billy. He's an old drunk friend. He used to sleep in the sheds. He says Dawn calls every 2 hours. That seems like a control thing, probably from Dawn. I don't know why. He actually calls Dawn's at work. That's why he just calls every 2 hours. Like, if you're at work, you call every 2 hours. I don't ever call. Ever. You know? Well, now I kind of do shit for myself. But back in the day, I mean, why? Yeah, I just want to catch up. Yeah, I'm still at work. But we know what Dawn's thing is. Is there any guys here? Is there any dudes around? You know that's what it is. Thought it was suspicious Dawn called and he was supposed to be at work. Then Hunter gives about his 50th yawn. And it seems like that goes on through this whole interview, and it seems like at his age, you would have woke up by now, right? He says that they stopped for cigarettes at the discount tobacco store. Now, once again, Chris is questioned about where everybody's sitting and riding and all this. He says only Canna goes into the tobacco store. She buys a vape, a twisted tea. He says then they have to, out of nowhere, and I even marked this. Now, this is like not in the timeline at all. Just out of nowhere, Hunter says they have to have done something. She didn't walk out on her own. Just out of nowhere. They wasn't talking about, what do you think, having a summer, none of that. He just made that statement. I thought that was crazy. Right? Now, after all that, they make it to the horse stable. He talks about summer's getting cold. She seemed to be fine, though. They go back to the Dawn call. Candace talks, or he mentions Candace like hushes everybody because Dawn calls. I guess it's like, be quiet. Dawn's supposed to think I'm at home. Or, you know, whatever. Dawn don't want me with guys because you know how insecure Dawn probably is. It's cool, Dawn. I think you're going to be all right. Then it cuts. And it cuts 3 times during this. And I swear I feel like it's it's because Hunter said something that Chris thought was evidence and didn't want to put it out there. I'd almost guarantee it. They're at the horse stables. He says as soon as he gets out of the truck, Candace gives him the tea. She gives me those. You can ask her. Allie nods yes. So he's like, you can ask her. She gives me, or Hunter's like, you can ask me. She gives me those. And Allie's like, she does. Mother of the Year, Allie. Wow. So they talk about it. Yes, they're both at the lake. Now everybody's at the lake. They're both hitting the vape. And some of it I know is a little sketchy, but they bounce around a lot. They're both hitting the vape. Chris gets up Mally's ass. Hey, Mom, no more vaping, right? He's real nonchalant about it because Chris ain't a rude person. He does a good job. What was the basic convo about? And he says basically telling each other what we've done the last week. Why would you limit it to the last week if you haven't seen or talked to each other in 8 months? Why do you go with the last week's timeline? You guys got an answer for that? No, you don't. That was crazy. That was a slip up. I guarantee you right there. Guarantee you. He says he didn't get a strange vibe from Candace because Chris is kind of talking about, do you think Candace is interested in you or something like that? So that was interesting that he went there, He talks about Grandis is in the phone putting her minutes on. You reckon that could have been a burner phone that they had for that day? It could have been. We never know. It's interesting. Also, the day that this is going on, you got what is essentially a burner phone. Now, this may be her phone she uses every day for the last 3 or 4 years, but it could be a burner phone you're putting minutes on because you don't want your phone tracked or your call. You know what I'm saying. Summer's swimming. And then he explains to Chris, if you've seen that TikTok, you might see me throw up a gang sign or something. Cornbread Mafia, it makes you wonder if there ain't ties, possibly. He says there's no pics of that day, just that video. Interesting. Then they talk about Summer going underwater. He says Summer's underwater for like 10, 15 seconds, right? Then they kind of go over what you think about all that. And, I don't think there's much in that. He kind of makes it out like he thinks that she could have got the dry drowning thing. It's the vibe I get. He never just says that, but it's the vibe I get. He says, this is when she's disappeared. He says he got nervous. He could see her. And then she went under. Then he gets her. And she was laughing. Everything seemed to be good. He said it probably wasn't 5 seconds before he noticed she was under the water. So it could be the dry drowning. I'm not saying it ain't, but I really don't think. I think all this other stuff that is so against the odds is against that. The dry drowning odds it's not a common thing. The odds of it are pretty high. Add that along with we ain't seen each other in 8 months. And I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying there's lies in all this, and there's lies for reasons, I believe. He says Candace and Grandis are looking for flares and talking. He's staying on focused on Summer because apparently he's the lifeguard. And you've seen Candace sleeping at church and Summer running around, so she ain't being hyper vigilant. God, you'd think at a swimming hole though, you would definitely be on top of it if you're ever going to pick a time to really watch your kid. But yet she walked Summer 30 feet to the front porch. Tell me I'm wrong. Oh, what? Yeah, that's what I thought. Go back again to Summer seemed fine. Right? Am I in the right spot? 5 seconds, stay focused on. Yeah. Then he says they went to the pharmacy, and this is getting the timeline screwed up again, right? Then he says they went to the hippie house. He says Candace and Grandis went in for some vape at the hippie house. Now, she's been out at the lake walking around. Now she's walking into the vape store on that knee that was so bad, you had to go to the emergency room. How many days a year you reckon you're at the emergency room? Not many. Not many for most. Every damn one of us. But guess what? Not only first time you see somebody for 8 months on the day your daughter disappears, Grandma has a emergency room visit on the day that Summer disappears. There's a reason. Candace went in the store for vape. Something about Allie. He asked Allie the name of the store or something, and then Leslie interjects, and she's wrong. And I always, in all this, it seems like, why is Leslie in any of this? She has basically zero to do with anything, but yet she's always right there, ain't she? And during this, man, they're trying to talk. You hear Allie right off camera. Sandra! It's so annoying, man. Right while they're filming. You know, I mean. Then they talk about Summer likes puppets. They're these little things you push. They're like kind of like, what's that stuff? Bubble packaging where you pop the bubbles. You just kind of pushing these little bubble things. Typically, those are for kids with issues. You know what they're for. Something like, then he talks about in that store, Candace bought him his own vape, once again contributing to the delinquency. Now they're at Walgreens, all right? Now, don't shoot the messenger. That is the way this went. At first, he made it out like they went straight to Walgreens. No, that ain't the case, apparently. They went to the hippie house. Now they're going to Walgreens. They go in the drive-thru. He says Summer's sitting on a pillow. Chris asks about the pillow. Where's it at now? Nobody knows that. All right? Not much happens at the pharmacy. They pick up their prescription. They're off to Sonic for slushies. And they ate the slushies on the way to the grocery store, where Grandis, once again on that, oh, it's so bad I went to the ER knee, is walking around the grocery store. Right? None of this equals up. Candace and Grandis go into the grocery store. Then, all of a sudden, he's like, and I noticed Summer's hair was cut. And Crystal's like, well, you noticed that shit when you seen her, right? And he's like, oh, well, yeah, but for some reason he went there. They don't say much about that. They go a lot over the milk jugs. And I'm telling you, that is all just a big mess. They talk about the orange pop. Allison mentions the candy in the seat. Apparently Allison had really went over that TikTok and studied it. He says milk. Hunter acts like he didn't even know there was milk. That's interesting too. He says he placed the milk where it was at one point. And then he says Summer was still awake. Okay. He says, or Chris asks him where he was at during the pic, and he's like, I wasn't there for the pic. You know, the video is what they're talking about, that's another interesting thing. It seems like, and I've heard other people say this as well, they don't think that's Grandis in the truck. Whose arm is that? That stuff. Maybe it was, man. Maybe it was Hunter. I don't know. I'm not swearing it ain't. Before the milk was in his lap, when they're going down the road. So, on the way to his house from the grocery store, he acts like he was holding the milk in his lap for some reason. That's strange, too. Why not just sit in the floorboard? You know, they got that whole back seat. It's just him and Summer. Why is it riding on his lap? There is something about the milk that stinks to high heaven. And, you know, I'm going to figure this shit out. I'm telling you, I'm on top of it. He got out because Allie wanted to talk to Candace over the trip, the upcoming, or something about to do with the water park trip maybe that was being planned or something. Which that's odd. You ain't spoke to somebody in 8 months and your first conversation's going to be like, oh, water park, huh? We heading? You going? What's up? A lot of that, man. It's just, I do not buy that shit. Hunter's yawning a lot more again. And, you know, that really, I feel like that's more of a defense mechanism type thing. I swear it don't seem right. Then they go over the milk again, how it got there. He says, well, I thought I was in the middle, but I guess I wasn't because of where the milk ended up. Something's wrong with the milk. Then he says the next time he talks to Candace at 7:30 that evening, she calls him, telling him Summer's missing. He thinks it's a joke because apparently Candace has gotten drunk 1,000,000 times and thought Summer was lost. That's crazy as hell right there. That bugs the shit out of me. She says, Summer's missing, Summer's missing, Summer's missing. Hunter says, well, call Mom. He thinks she's just drunk and Summer's outside, so he doesn't really see nothing to it, right? Then he talks about, she calls the next day, and she's talking about having to take 2 polygraphs. So, you know, Dawn, I think, tried to explain that as she was too tired for one of them, so she had to take another one. I just wonder if they're asking the right questions on them polygraphs. Don't ask, did you kill Summer? You should be asking things like, do you know where Summer is? Stuff like that, which hopefully they are. And man, hopefully Dawn and Candace didn't have shit to do with it, and we're going to find her, and everything's going to be cool. But, you know, a lot of this adds up, and it just seems so unlikely. Then Hunter says, you know, TBI told him not to be in contact with Candace. So I think TBI thinks there's something fishy for sure. Then he starts whining about his phone. TBI still got his phone. Chris kind of gives him a, you know, suck it up. This is for Summer. It ain't about you being a brat over your phone. Then he says 2 days after Candace shows, 2 days after, he talks to Candace, and she asked about what TBI talked about and told him to say, you know, don't say nothing about her giving him alcohol, which he had already done, so that was out there by then. And then he says, you know, in his gut, he thinks Candace is involved, right? It's a bold statement. Then he talks about somebody seen Candace hauling ass to the police station, and he tries to insinuate it's over the reward in some way. And, you know, it's, what you going to be do? Like, yeah, I hid Summer, but I heard that reward, so I know where she's at. Let me give it that 25 grand. I don't know what he's going to, that's all about. That just didn't make much sense to me. Then he says, Grandma's out of her mind, grumpy, controlling, runs everything. He kind of makes it out like he thinks Grandis is over the disappearance, kinda. And somebody's mentioned that to me before. And that makes you wonder, you know, because Grandma, she's shady as hell. Anyway, I'm telling you, her knee wasn't hurting. You don't go do all of that shit on a bad knee. You don't. They ask him what should happen to whoever took Summer. He says he gives it a better answer than Dawn did. He's like, they should be locked up for a very long time. Dawn was like, well, I don't know. You know? Then he asked Hunter, and this is where I think there's something good at. He asked Hunter, he's like, what should I know that I haven't talked to you about? And poof, we get a cut. So I think there's another spot where he said something and Chris thought it was good enough that he shouldn't air it, and it's going to lead to something. And there were like 3 of those cuts, and I feel like all 3 of them had something to do with Chris thought it was worthy to edit it out and not let everybody know about that. Then he talks about he checked her phone. He's great with tech, and he sees these messages in the trash file and all this and that. And he says the last one says, it's done, said the dealer. I don't know. He says in his gut it's either Candace and the dealer or it's all of them. And I think he meant Dawn, Candace, Grandis, all of them. Then he says the TBI told him Dawn wasn't at work. That makes you wonder right there. And, you know, near the end, I wanted to make sure I told y'all, Allie's phone was going off the whole time while that interview was going on. I'm not against the theory that her and Candace are just faking this feud and they're actually trafficking together or something. I don't know. That's, you know, one opinion I might have. I'm getting ready to do a video soon, and I'm going to finally tell y'all what I think. But we're going to do a couple more of these reviews of older stuff first. I'm not sure what next. If you guys want some recommendations, let me know. But yeah, I think that said a lot, man. I really do. I think them couple slips I'm in, and I really think it was odd that he was like they hadn't seen each other in so long. And if you look at them odds, if you haven't seen each other in that long, what are the odds that's the day Summers go missing? And if you're lying about how long you've seen each other, why are you lying? Something's up. I'm going to think on it some more. And we're going to do another review of something old that has some meat to it so we can get the story worked out even better. Y'all know, man, I'm working on it. You know, I'm no great Sherlock Holmes, but I think together with all you guys and me, we might figure this out.